My name is Hannah. I'm 32 and my father died unexpectedly 3 months ago. His estate was complicated. Properties, stocks, art, a handful of business accounts. My older brother, Simon, had always assumed he would take the lead, but Dad left a letter and it changed everything. The letter arrived in a cream envelope, handwritten, in a familiar slant that immediately tightened my chest. It read, "To my daughters, you each inherit equally, but responsibility and transparency are your duties. Nothing is to be hidden, nothing assumed. Do not let greed or ego decide what is right." I read it 3 times. Simon read it once and laughed. "Dad always said I'd handle it better," he sneered. I looked at the ink, the words, the paper that smelled faintly of cedar and old libraries, and felt the gravity of what he had entrusted to us. 2 days later, Simon called a family meeting in the old estate living room. My mother sat in her velvet armchair, delicate hands clutching a cup of tea, eyes wary. Simon stood at the fireplace, packing, a smug grin plastered across his face. "Hannah, you know how Dad would want this handled," he said, voice dripping with charm. "We'll need to go through everything together. Transparency, yes, but efficiency too. Let me take the lead." I nodded politely, hiding my apprehension. Efficiency, I realized, was his code for control. Before the meeting, I had already started gathering Dad's documents. Bank statements, property deeds, contracts, even his handwritten notes from years of careful planning. I copied everything into a folder I named Dad's Estate Proof. Every number, every asset, every liability. If Simon tried to manipulate the process, I would be ready. The first shock came with the properties. Dad had left instructions. Every property must be evaluated independently, and each of us had the right to sell, lease, or retain as we saw fit, but not without mutual disclosure. Simon's plan was clear. He intended to claim the prime properties before anyone else noticed. I pulled out the first deed. "Simon," I said calmly, "this house on Maple Avenue isn't yours to claim. It's listed as jointly inheritable with full disclosure required. Look at Dad's letter." His smirk faltered. "Hannah, it's just a formality. We all know it'll work out." "No," I said firmly. "We follow Dad's instructions. Transparency, nothing hidden, everything documented." I handed him a folder with valuation reports, photographs, maintenance costs, and rental agreements. Every piece of evidence from the estate's accountant was inside. For the next week, the tension escalated. Simon tried to charm our mother, our cousins, even the neighbors, portraying me as rigid, difficult, or naive. "She's complicating everything," he whispered to anyone who would listen. I kept my folders, my receipts, my notes. I documented every interaction, every attempt to manipulate, every gaslighting comment. By the end of the week, I had built a chronological record of Simon's maneuvers, complete with emails, texts, and timestamp notes from phone calls. The confrontation came unexpectedly. Simon scheduled a late-night family dinner in the estate's dining hall. Candles flickered on the table. The house smelled faintly of roast beef and polished wood. I entered quietly, carrying my laptop and a folder thick with evidence. "Everyone's here?" Simon asked, smiling. "Yes," I said, setting my laptop down. The screen lit up with spreadsheets, photographs of properties, receipts, and the scanned letter from Dad. I opened the folder. "Simon, these are your actions over the past week. Attempts to claim property without disclosure, attempts to mislead Mom, attempts to manipulate cousins. All documented." He froze. "Hannah, this isn't necessary." "It's necessary," I said. "Dad wanted transparency. We follow his instructions, not your ego." Mom leaned forward, eyes wide. "Children, what is this?" "This," I said, "is proof. Every claim Simon has tried to make without full disclosure. Every attempt to bend Dad's wishes. And here's the timeline." I clicked through the laptop. Emails, screenshots, receipts, notes. Each action was dated and labeled. Simon's face went red. "You're trying to humiliate me." "No," I replied. "I'm enforcing Dad's will. He trusted us equally. We honor him by being honest." The room fell silent. My cousins shifted uncomfortably. Mom sipped her tea, face pale but calm. The following days were tense. Simon refused to speak directly to me, instead sending passive-aggressive emails and texts to family members. I kept my evidence ready, my documentation thorough. I never reacted with emotion, I only responded with facts. By the end of the second week, the estate lawyer called. "Simon, your sister has been meticulous. Everything is documented. If you continue with these attempts to manipulate the process, there will be legal consequences." Simon's smirk disappeared. He realized I wasn't bluffing. I had spent years being careful, collecting evidence, being prepared for this exact moment. Months passed. The estate was divided according to Dad's wishes. Properties were assigned, stocks distributed, and every account audited. Simon learned boundaries the hard way. He could no longer manipulate, gaslight, or coerce. My mother, initially hesitant, finally acknowledged the importance of transparency. I moved into one of the properties, a small townhouse on the edge of the city, filled with sunlight and quiet. Every morning, I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and worked on my own projects. No debts, no hidden responsibilities, no manipulation. Just me and the life I had earned. The final confrontation came unexpectedly. Simon approached me in the driveway one evening. He looked smaller somehow, humbled. "Hannah, I see what Dad meant. I didn't understand." I nodded. "It's simple. Transparency, honesty, respect. Follow those rules and we all win. Ignore them and you'll face consequences." He swallowed hard. "I get it, I really do." I let him leave without further words. Some lessons are learned through experience, not lectures. Title: Overlooked and Undervalued for a Promotion. Then I showed them every fact the board couldn't ignore me. Thumbnail script: They chose charm over work. I chose proof, precision, and quiet power. By the end of the meeting, my promotion wasn't just deserved, it was undeniable.